Can Freedom Day, a day like this, have spiritual significance? Well, let's bring in Vani Pavadai, coordinator at I Meditate Africa, which says, while we have various rights and freedoms enshrined in our constitution, Vani, it remains important for us as spiritual beings to live each day consciously. I'm hoping you were able to hear some of the words there of J. Naidu, how he recollects where Mandela was when Mandela was in prison, and how for him is that Mandela was able to go within to rise above the limitations of the mind. And that's really what spiritual being is about, isn't it?
Hi, Dan. Afternoon, and happy Freedom Day to you. And thank you for having me. Well, I love Jay's sentiments, and Jay is a meditator. And Freedom Day, you know, it means so many different things for different people. For some people, it's about political, economic, and social freedom. For me, it's all of that, political, economic, and social freedom. But it's most importantly, it's about your spiritual freedom. And, you know, Mandela was not the only African statesman who encouraged one to go inwards, to find yourself, to know your mind. Imprisoned for 27 years, his body was captured, but his mind was not conquered. And that's the success of the Mandela spirit. But the former president of Mozambique, Joaquim Chissano, he was also an African statesman who encouraged people to go inside. If you Google Chissano, President Chissano, you will find him to be the African meditating president. And for me, Freedom Day needs to incorporate the sentiment of your inner freedom, the freedom of your mind, your being, your energy, and spiritual freedom. So I was asked this question in this week, what is spiritual freedom to me? And it's the freedom of living your life to the fullest and understanding yourself better, living a life to aligning yourself to simple core values, the value of love, humility, honesty, integrity, sincerity, compassion, and truth. And when we start living away from our core values, when we start moving away from the essence of who we are, that's when the challenges and the difficulties in our life comes up. Stress, violence, anger, fear, anxiety, depression, the inability to cope with the demands of life. And that's why you need to know how your mind works, because we spend the most time in our life with our own minds, in our own heads. And so understanding, going inwards and understanding who you are and the functioning of your mind is a very important tool to have in a modern day life.
In a modern day life, Vani, in a modern day life, there are these challenges like inequality, like poverty, like joblessness, like gender-based violence and femicide. Those, the day-to-days, you know, will I be able to put a loaf of bread on the table by the end of today and feed my children? How do you balance that as we look at Freedom Day that is giving us the rights that are enshrined in the Constitution with this spiritual freedom? I mean, how do you do that? How do you go within when you have nothing on the table?
You know, when you have bread and butter issues, a word like spiritual freedom can be, you know, very new age and doesn't really apply to you because you've got bread and butter issues. But for me, this is not, put it this way, the demands of life and the inequalities of life. It's here, we in a democracy for 27 years. So much has changed for people and so much has not changed for people. So these demands of life, job, no job, money, no money, anxiety, people dealing with health issues, challenges within a family setup, all of these demands of life is not going to drop. It's not going to change. So the skill is actually to be able to meet these demands. And so what do you need to meet these demands? You need an ability to manage your mind. You need an ability to bring up your physical, your mental energy so that you can function within the situation you find yourself in. Sometimes we want to change the situation, and the only time situations can change is when we have a say over our own mind. So, of course, we're living in an age of innovation, an age of technology, But for me, it's also an age of spirituality where people are thirsting. They're looking for something deeper. They're wanting to live a life with more depth, with more purpose, with more meaning. And this is where the role of meditation and breath work comes into play. The quality of your life is solely dependent on the state of your mind. And so many people are not equipped to manage their minds. And that's why meditation is a critical component to inner peace.
Tell me about it. I don't know how many times I tell my mind to keep quiet and stuff like this. So meditation is the way. Thank you very much, Vani, for joining us on the Midday View on this Freedom Day, taking time to talk to us here on eNCA as we look at spiritual significance of Freedom Day, because there is, and from what we heard from Jay Naidu earlier about how Mandela had to go deeply within when he was in jail to find himself and become the leader that he became. There are many values for us there to espouse to. Still